What's going on, guys? It's the NHL Betting Market video for January the 26th. We have a jam-packed schedule today. I think there's 13 games, if I'm not mistaken. So we are going to jump right into it, Fat Guy. 870 bets on the Rangers-Sabres game. We have a 7 p.m. Eastern time start. The line has moved in favor of the Rangers on the money line from even to minus 109. 52% of bettors are on the Rangers. However, only 42% of the money is on the Rangers. So take a look at the puck line, where the puck line juice has also moved in favor of the Rangers from minus 244 to minus 269 as 1.5 goal underdogs. 50% of bets are on both sides, but 87% of the money is on the Rangers. So that might be why that money line has adjusted towards the Rangers side.
Yeah, I can understand that. I still think that there's more money probably on the money line on the Sabres, oddly, than there is on the puck line at 87%. I mean, that's just an inference, bit of a guess here. But the Rangers should have more money at minus 269 or 244 in that range, considering they are significant favorites. 87% is above either of those two prices for exposure, but it's probably balanced considering 58% of the money line is on the Buffalo Sabres, and their line has dipped minus 112 to minus 101. So I actually think this is probably in balance, to be honest. Good score would be looks like the Ranger. Wow, what would a good score be, Benning? It's balanced. There is no good score. It looks like Sabres winning by 2 actually might be better. Big Rye, I'm thinking.
It's most likely Sabres
Most
winning
likely
by
it could
2.
be balanced though.
But we don't know what the exact handle is on the money line compared to the puck line.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the OU for this game. It opened at 6, still at 6. The juice has moved on the under, though, from plus 104 up to minus 105. 43% of bettors and 55% of the money is on the under.
Yeah, that does make sense. They're, it's a lateral move. This one doesn't have much meat on it here. 9-point move, 55% of the money. Makes sense. Let's go.
Next up, we have the Panthers Blue Jackets game. 832 bets so far. 7 p.m. Eastern time start. The line has moved in favor of the Panthers, who have gone from plus 103 to plus 101. 39% of bettors, 71% of the money is on the Panthers. Conversely, on the puck line, we don't have any of the bet or money percentages, but the line has moved slightly in favor of the Panthers from minus 227 to minus 233 as 1.5 goal underdogs.
Yeah. We don't have the money percentages or the volume percentages for the puck line market, so it's really tough to tell an entire picture between the two because they do kind of balance in a weird way. I would imagine, though, that there is more money, more exposure on the Panthers, perhaps, just slightly. Panthers, one of those weird teams that have only played, I believe, 2 games, are undefeated, though, against a Blue Jackets team, which I believe is 2-2-2, so... maybe the reasoning for the Blue Jackets is perhaps conditioning that they're the favorite, but we couldn't tell you. We're not handicapping, we're strictly looking at the market.
And then the OU for this game, it opened at 5.5, but the juice has moved in favor of the under from plus 107 to minus 101. 16% of bettors are on the under, but just like the puck line, we don't have the money percentages for this one either, Fat Guy.
Yeah, really difficult to make an inference other than the under. I would almost imagine that they have more than 50% of the money, considering their price got significantly worse from plus 107 to minus 101. They would need that too, because 16% isn't going to sway the market. It doesn't make sense. So I would imagine that the money percentage is probably around the 55, 58, 60%. But that is just strictly speculation based on movement information.
Next up is the Flyers Devils. There's only 680 bets in this game. But this game starts at 7 p.m. Eastern time. The line has moved very, very slightly in favor of the Devils from plus 132 to plus 131 on the money line. 33% of bettors and 16% of the money is on the Devils. So an interesting reverse, very, very, very slight reverse line movement there on the Devils. Let's take a look at the puck line. The Devils opened as 1.5 goal underdogs, minus 190. They've been bet up to minus 200, 52% of bettors and 66% of the money. That is pretty much spot on.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
As far as the puck line money percentages go.
Yeah,
so it looks like there is some. They have taken some exposure here on the Flyers, despite the line like ever so slightly moving as a reverse line movement for the Devils.
Yeah, looks like a devil victory. Devil's victory is probably the best way. Probably the best result for the books. Although this could be balanced pretty nicely too. It's just that minus 200 is it should have 66%. I mean, it's pretty much where it should be.
It doesn't matter what the result is in that game. They're going to make
exactly.
money either way. So they are taking exposure on the Flyers on the money line because paying out 84% of the money at anywhere from minus 149 to minus 145, they are going to be losing some money on that market specifically. Onto the OU, it opened at 5.5, still at 5.5. The juice has barely moved. 80% of bettors are on the over, which is more heavily juiced at minus 122.
Yeah, and minus 108 on the under. This looks like a juice adjustment as well because there is a few points added. Let's say they usually juice the early lines a little bit more than the ones that come out a bit after. We can't make really too many inferences because we don't have the money percentage, but more than likely this is pretty closer to even money. They could be taking exposure on the over and like the under, which is I would imagine is a possibility because 5.5 is such a low number to put out there because a lot of guys are going to be putting the over out.
And then on to the next game, which is the Islanders Capitals. Fat Guy, 529 bets on this game, 7 p.m. Eastern time start. The line has moved quite heavily in favor of the Islanders in favor of the Capitals, going from plus 136 down to plus 113. Only 34% of bettors and 9% of the money is on the Capitals, despite that large line move. And then on the puck line, conversely, as 1.5 goal underdogs, they've gone from minus 211 to minus 220, 17% of bets, but 96% of the money has been placed on the Capitals money or on the Capitals puck line. I'm just going to take a look because anytime a line moves this much, I always think, there's a possibility for injury, but more importantly, starting goalies. So as you break that down, I'm going to check what the goalies are like in this game.
Well, this is one of those oscillation type things because the Capitals losing, like the bad result would be if the Islanders won by 1 goal because the Capitals would cover the puck line and they would lose the money line market. So that makes me automatically think if there's one really bad result, that makes me think that's the least likely thing that could happen because this sportsbook in particular doesn't exactly like to take risk in certain spots, and that is a risk. Islanders by winning by just about 1 goal. Any news, Big Rye?
There isn't. The starters are not for sure, but it's going to be most likely Semyon Varlamov versus Vitek Vanacek, and I haven't had the chance to watch Vanacek play yet. But Semyon Varlamov, it looks like, has had a very, very, very strong start to the season. So that probably explains this next market and why the under is so low. So I think people are just expecting a very low scoring game in this one, slightly favoring the Islanders to win with how the lines are spread out. But the OU for this game opened 5.5. The under minus 126 to minus 128. 35% of bettors on the under. 22% of the money is on the under.
Yeah, I can understand because it's so low, like the total, but it's so juiced in a way that it makes you want to bet the over. Plus 110 to plus 113 range at plus all that plus money. It does incentivize over. Most hockey games are over 5.5 this year, so I could understand that. But I mean, when you put a line out there, most people are going to be taking the over. Something's fishy. It almost makes me think that the under is more likely. Again, we can't make those types of handicapping speculations. I'm just trying to make inferences from where the book's pricing, because they could easily put a line out at 6 and draw even money, but they've chosen not to at 5.5, and also incentivizing you to take the over at 5.5 as well. So like this is closer to 5 than it is 6.
And we're not here to handicap games, and I'm just here to report what I see. But Varlamov has played 3 games, 3 starts, 3 wins. He's only given up 1 goal in those 3 starts, so 2 shutouts and 1 goal against. So it's been a very, very strong start.
Revenge game for Varlamov.
Yeah. onto the Pens Bruins. 7 p.m. Eastern time start. 794 bets. The line has moved in favor of the Penguins on the money line from plus 118 to plus 111, 35% of bettors. However, 68% of the money is on the Pens. Let's take a look at the puck line. Conversely, on the puck line, there is exposure on the Bruins. who has 1.5 goal favorites, open at plus 171. They've been bet up to plus 195, 24% of bettors, which makes sense, but 61% of the money. So quite a bit of exposure on the Bruins to win by 2 or more goals.
That could be mitigated by the handle of the money line and the puck line, where there conversely
true.
could be a lot more money on the money line. So they probably end up balanced, to be honest. But I just think that there's a strong ratio money line to puck line money if I were to make an inference.
And then on to the OU, which opened at 6 with juice on the under. It's been bet down to 5.5 with even juice on each side. 88% of bettors are on the over. And just like always, 88% of the money on the under. It just feels like public bettors are always betting the over, and sharp bettors, it seems like, are always taking the under.
Yeah, and they're betting it down from they're betting it down from 6 to 5.5. Like that really is indicative that this money figure is right and it's not inputted wrong, because they took exposure on the under, and we need to get more money on the over. So that's why they moved that they moved the line a half goal. How much is that half goal worth? I don't know, because it's 123 to minus 105. So it's not a full half goal, but it is still a movement nonetheless, and a strong one.
On to the next game, which is the Edmonton Oilers traveling to Winnipeg to take on the Jets. Only 416 bets on this game so far. The money line has just been a juice adjustment for the Oilers from minus 109 down to minus 107. 50% of bettors are on each side. 86% of early money is on the Winnipeg Jets. Not only on the money line, but when we take a look at the puck line, Jets is 1.5 point underdogs, minus 247, bet up to minus 249. So not much of a movement there. 29% of bettors, however, 95% of the money. So despite there only being 416 bets, so not a lot of bets, fat guy.
Yeah.
On those early bets, the books are taking a lot of exposure on the Jets, but not enough exposure to move the line really at all.
Which makes me think, though, that like it's 86% of an extremely low amount, like by comparison, right? Because they would be worried about it, but this could really be a couple $100 or a few thousand. So they're going to expect Oiler money to come maybe later, closer to puck drop. And perhaps I think this is just such a low volume market that using these, like, that's a good one. Indicators are strongest from market plays when the market is large. When it's this low, you're essentially gambling, which is something we would never advocate for, despite having a sports gambling channel. So I don't think that you can draw any conclusions really about which side to take from this market, considering it hasn't even impacted. So that's another indication this probably isn't sharp money because it's so low. Because if it was, why wouldn't they have any sort of activity? And they haven't. So my idea is this is just Joe money on the Jets, and they're not really concerned about it. And the pros probably don't like the prices either on either side. So there's a good chance that this is equilibrium, and this is just pros fighting over who's going to pay the most juice.
And then the OU had opened at 6.5, a minus 118 on the under. It's been bet down to 6 with minus 121 on the over. 70% of bets have been placed on the over, despite the total goals moving from 6.5 down to 6. Fat guy.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Is without the money percentage, it does make it a little bit difficult to try and process here. But that it's not a full half goal, because you're incentivizing to take the under at 6, but you're incentivizing to take the over at 6.5. So like I said, it's not a full half goal, much like the Pens Bruins one just above us. But it is interesting. So it's possible that much like the Pens Bruins game after, you might have a reverse in money, like 70% of the money is put up by 30% of the people. That's a possibility. The one thing is, though, is it's 416 bets. So I would imagine that this money total is so the amount of money that's been placed on this is a lot lower. Although, like I had mentioned, you don't want to get too much from 416. I think there is a possibility that there was sharp action on this under 6.5, because it did move the market, and those other ones had high money discrepancies and didn't move the market. So without the money percentage, it does make it a little bit difficult, because then we could really get a clear picture. But there is a possibility that there was sharp money on the under 6.5, which would make sense because that's a very high number, a number we don't often see. On
to the Kings Wild, 718 bets so far in this game. The line has moved very slightly in favor of the Kings from plus 139 to plus 136. 34% of bets have been placed on the Kings, but unfortunately we don't have the money percentages for the money line. So let's conversely look at the puck line, which is also moved in favor of the Kings. 75% of bettors are on the Kings. 29% of the money, however, is on the Kings puck line. So money-wise, the books are taking exposure on the Wild to win by 2 or more.
Yeah, they are, but it's probably balanced. That's my guess, is because there's I bet you there's a significant money on the Kings. We can't for sure say that because we don't have that money percentage, but there is a reasonable shot at it, I think, because we've seen this, how the books operate. They tend to balance quite well, and that would be my best. I'm using the word inference a lot, but that's all I have right here. Limited lexicon, as they like to say. So I do like alliteration. So I think the Kings do have a probably a bit more money on them on the money line. That would be my best guess.
And then next up we have the Blackhawks. Or did we talk about the OU for this game? Not yet.
No,
right?
we did not.
It opened at 5.5, still at 5.5. The juice has barely moved. 82% of bets on the over. 56% of the money is on the under. So it looks like the Sharps are on the under, but really this market hasn't adjusted much for it either way.
No, so perhaps that, maybe that's even a bold statement, because Sharps usually bet reasonable amounts of money, a lot larger than squares, and that usually would impact the market, and has, despite having a money discrepancy. So it's a chance that the 7-18 low volume, not as low as clearly as the Jets game, that just doesn't have much of an impact in that way. So this is a pretty chalk one. I can't see any inferences to be made one way or another. We should get a ticker at the bottom how many times I say inference.
Blackhawks Preds 907 bets. The line has moved in favor of the Predators on the money line from minus 160 to minus 172. 52% of bets and 53% of the money is on the Preds. So they're taking a slight bit of exposure here on the Blackhawks on the money line. Let's take a look at the Predators Blackhawks puck line, which has moved in favor of the Predators as well from plus 142 to plus 138. As a 1.5 goal favorites. 20% of bets, however, 80% of the money is on the Preds puck line. So this might be fairly close to an even handle when you consider the money line and the puck line markets.
Yeah, because they are taking exposure, because 47% of the money paying out at 141 to 154 range is exposure. It is, because you're going to have to pay out more dollars than you're taking in. That's just the way the math works on that. However, though, because of the amount of money on the Predators, there is a chance, though, that that this is balanced. The one thing I will say, though, is a Blackhawks win. A Blackhawks win is I think this is just balanced. I was gonna make an inference. That's 3 now since I mentioned it. This is probably balanced, and it's probably chalk in more often than not.
Well, I'll jump in. I think the Predators winning by 1 is easily the best result for the books, because they'd have to pay out 53% of the money at minus 172 and 20% of the money at minus 153. So that would be a nice win for the books, the best result for the books. So most likely if the Blackhawks win or the Preds win by 2 or more, it's going to be a bad result where they have to pay out probably just a little bit more than what they would normally.
Well, they're probably free rolling. They're probably balanced on those 2 spots. Whereas you're right, the Preds one is good.
On to the OU. It opened at 6, still at 6. The juices moved in favor of the over from minus 107 to minus 112. 74% of bets are on the over. However, 85% of the money is on the under.
A lot of discrepancy. I feel like a lot of pro money has been on the unders for quite some time now. Maybe because of an over expectation on early goal scoring, which tends to light the flame on over bettors, which are Joes. So there is always that. There is a 1-point juice correction from 214 in total juice points down to 213. So that is of note. Something to always notice is that you might have a better advantage earlier on with early lines that are weak, but it does get corrected as the market gets more efficient. So they are taking exposure on the under, making, I think, a 4-3 Predators win is probably the most likely result, I would imagine.
On to the Red Wings Stars game. 983 bets so far. The Stars open at minus 206. They've been bet up to minus 213. 55% of bettors and 95% of the money on the Stars money line. Conversely, on the puck line, though, the line has moved in favor of the Red Wings as plus 1.5 goal underdogs, minus 134 to minus 145. 53% of bettors and 80% of the money is on the Red Wings at minus 145.
It's just so interesting to me that they can get such polarization between the money line and the puck line, Big Rye.
Yeah.
This is in all of sports market and analysis we've done. This is by far the most interesting to me because you get them to bet on both sides in the weirdest of ways. I love it. I really love it. It's interesting. The marketing is interesting to me, and I'd like to really pick brains of people that actually bet puck line. I want to know why they choose that over money line. And what the reasoning is behind it. So obviously some are going to be doing it for entertainment, some for value, and I'd like to hear from both. That's a good reason to fill the comment section for those of you that are watching. The Red Wings, clearly they're taking on the money line exposure on the Stars, but the Red Wings as well, they're taking exposure on them on the puck line. I'm wondering though if they really need a Red Wings victory. That would probably be the best result because I mean even though there is so much on the puck line, you're going to pay out at minus 145. And I understand the Stars paying out is like, it's not as bad because you're paying out at minus 213. It's just the money line is just dwarfs the puck line so often. I mean, it's possible to be balanced here. It's just, I just feel like it's a little bit less likely.
And then the OU, it opened at under 5.5, minus 118. It's been bet down to 5 goals with the over being at minus 138. 53% of bettors are on the over in that game.
Yeah, this is, wow, what a low total, eh? And going down to 5, I really wish we had the money percentage for this one because I would imagine that somehow the money flew a little bit on the under, although there is a possibility, Big Rye, that this half goal isn't worth that, and this could be a reverse line movement in the weirdest of ways. Because that half goal, is it really worth the gap between minus 118 and plus 122? It might not be, right? And under 5 is it tough? Because think about it. You got 3-1 both ways, 2-1 both ways, 3-0, 2-0, 1-0 both ways. And that's all I can come up with in the old brain. I mean, it's bizarre, right? So that's just not that many combinations. And I just want to know, I'm really curious if this is a reverse line movement, because realistically, like I said, is that half goal worth the minus 118 to plus 122? Because that's a significant juice change of what looks to be 40 points from minus 118.
On to the next game, the Maple Leafs Flames, 605 bets, 9 p.m. Eastern Time start. The line has moved really in favor of neither team here. The juice is just adjusted, so the line is essentially the same. 43% of bettors are on the Leafs. 54% of the money is on the Leafs as well.
Yeah, it looks. Well, we got to take a look at the puck line here, Big Rye, to get a full picture.
Yeah, they are taking a little bit of exposure on the Flames, who have gone from plus 1.5 goal underdogs at minus 250 to minus 247. 65% of bets, 87% of the money.
Yeah, this is one of those things. I mean, the people are betting the Leafs, but at minus 108, I mean, that's looks to be imbalanced, the money line, where they're taking slight exposure on the Flames, because 247, you should have a lot more money on it. I don't think it's quite at the 87% mark, so there could be a few percentage points of risk on the Flames, but that could be mitigated by the money line market, where I understand that there's more money on the Leafs, but at the 108 configuration here, that this might balance in a weird way.
Yeah, minus 247 for the Flames. You're looking at around 72% of the money to be at equilibrium. So right now they're receiving 87%.
At balance, not equilibrium. But
yeah, to balance. The difference, though, there isn't that much, because paying out that difference at minus 247 isn't going to be that much. So what the fat guy's inferring is that on the money line, to have to pay out 54% of the money at minus 108 is probably going to be more or fairly close to the difference at minus 247 at 87%. On to the OU for this game, which opened at 6.5 at minus 118 on the under. It's now sitting at 6 goals at minus 116 on the over. So possibly not much of a line movement at all, considering how the juice has fluctuated. 56% of bettors on the over. However, 86% of the money has been placed on the under.
Yeah. The Big Rise mentioning, because look at the half goals. They're incentivizing taking the under now with the current line, whereas they were incentivizing taking the over on the opening line. But there's a half goal movement in there. So then you, again, much like we've done for the NBA, this will happen for the NHL. Just going to take some time, a little bit more data perhaps. But that 21-point move from minus 119 to minus 103, is that worth a half goal? Or is this just jostling of prices, even if it's neutral, just to gain more footing in the market, a little to increase the handle, perhaps to stimulate buyers? That's one of those things that I've always found interesting, is when they just joggle the lines a little bit to try and, in theory, I'm not in the war room down in Costa Rica or Panama or whatever, fooling with these lines, but that is something that is a possibility of happening.
On to the Blues Golden Knights, 529 bets, 9 p.m. Eastern time start. The line has moved slightly in favor of the Knights from minus 143 to minus 145. 52% of bettors, 53% of the money is on the Golden Knights, so very, very little exposure on the Blues there. Onto the puck line, where the line has very, very, very slightly moved in favor of the Golden Knights as 1.5 goal favorites from plus 161 to plus 160. Unfortunately, no betting information, though, on the puck line market.
Which that really, really hurts our picture here, right? Because it
does.
It's
so
hard
there's not much to talk about for this. So let's just jump right into the OU. It opened at 6. It's been bet down to 5.5. But the juice has moved from the under at 6 at minus 124 to the over 5.5 at minus 124. 51% of bettors, 96% of the money is on the over. So this is one of the rare moments where we get to see a lot more money on the over.
Yeah, that is. I mean, is this sharp money on the over? It's hard to make that choice, but they moved and then they reverse moved it. But did they really? Because what's that difference in that half goal, right? From plus 108 to over under of 6 at plus 108 to over under at 5 at minus 124. Like, is that half goal worth that big gap in juice? That's one of those things you're going to have to answer for yourself. It does look like, I would imagine, though, that over money has come in recently because perhaps the 5.5 number is better, but maybe that's a good way of looking at it. When did this over money come in? You'd have to do a lot of research in doing that, but then you would probably know where the best point to buy this price is, because people buying at such a large discrepancy in money are usually sharps, and they tend to know when the best price is because that's what they do. They just bet prices. They don't bet teams. And I would imagine that there is a movement probably in the middle where there was maybe 5.5 freshly moved, 6 freshly moved to 5.5, and there was good juice, and then they had to conversely just jostle it right back up to incentivize the under, because it's now at a really nice price at plus 110.
On to the next game, the Ducks Coyotes, 680 bets, 9 p.m. Eastern time start. The line really hasn't moved since open. Coyotes still at minus 131 from open to current. 49% of bettors are on the Coyotes. 92% of the money is on the Coyotes money line. Unfortunately for this puck line as well, we don't have the puck line percentages, even though the line has moved in favor of the Ducks. So possibly more money on the Ducks on the puck line, which is balancing out the Coyotes money line money early on with only 680 bets. So not much to talk about with those markets. So I'll just jump straight into the OU at 5.5. A huge juice movement here from minus 112 to minus 132 on the under. 62% of bettors are on the under. However, 68% of the money is on the over. And just think about how juicy that is at plus 5.5 at plus 117.
They are really, really incentivizing it. It looks almost too easy, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. I mean, we can't know that for sure. It is a market video, not a forecasting video. But, I mean, that price in the over is just too tempting, which makes me almost think it's a carnival game where, the basketball hoop is bent in half a little bit, or you could never really fit that ring on that bottle. But either way, I do think that there is something fishy going on here. Because this is one of those games where if it ends up 1-0, I'd be like, how do they know? Yeah. And this might be one of those spots because it does look way too tempting to take the over at plus money there.
And then on to the final game of the night, Sharks Avalanche, 756 bets. The line has moved in favor of the Sharks from plus 190 down to plus 183. 37% of bettors and 26% of the money is on the Sharks. So very slight exposure there on the Avalanche, despite the line moving in favor of the Sharks. And that could be because of the puck line, which is Sharks plus 1.5, minus 118 to minus 134. 68% of bettors, 76% of the money is on the Sharks. So this could possibly be equal money on both sides, with maybe there being slightly more handle on either the puck line or the money line to balance this out.
Yeah, I would imagine it's on. I always think it's on the money line here. I mean, 220 or 207 doesn't line up exactly with 74%, but 76% of money on the Sharks on the puck line can probably make that up, despite being perhaps less of a handle. I'm amazed at how they get this oscillating type of thing where they're generating probably great revenue on both sides in terms of ROI. Yeah. So it is interesting nonetheless. On to the OU, the final OU of the day.
The final OU, and just to highlight there, if the Avalanche do win by 1, that's a bad result for the books, considering 74% of the money is on the Avalanche to win, and 76% of the money is on the Sharks to cover at plus 1.5. The OU, the market hasn't changed. It sits at 6. It's still at 6. 92% of bettors on the over, 94% of the money on the under.
Yeah, 94% of the money on the under. That's just massive here. But this tells me though that the handle on this is tiny. Yeah. Because there's no movement really. 3 points here, and it's incentivizing the under, so it's pretty much a reverse line movement from open. Unless they're like, we got it like right when they put that money and they're going to move it now. That's the only scenario I can come up with where this handle for the OU is anything above extremely marginal, because it's not redundant, extremely marginal. I got to learn a lot of stuff, guys. Just let me have it. So 94% on the money. I don't think this is a low. Either that or this figure could be grossly misrepresented. That's always a possibility. So I'm not going to look too far into this one because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, or there is no either that or it makes complete sense and there is no indication.
That is it, guys, for the NHL betting market for January the 26th. Good luck in your wagers today.